Yo guys, Vision here, back with more Minecraft content. Today's episode number 11 of the survival series. We'll go into detail on the Mineshafts, discussing everything you need to know about these incredible early game structures, which provides all kinds of experiences, from being terrified, especially if you're playing on hardcore. I can vouch for this, as these structures contain many mobs, and that element of just unknown, with being in a maze-like structure all the way through to having a great time, as you can find various different types of rare and unique items, which will help you progress through the game, especially early on. Now, I'll also provide a brief update on where we're at with the world with regards to end game progress and any upcoming news or recent events, and remind you guys this is the first time I'm playing Minecraft Survival in over 10 years. So, on that note, let's get right into it. So first things first, what is a mineshaft? Now I appreciate it's an early game and historic structure at this point, so a lot of players will already know, but for any newer or returning players like myself, it's a maze-like structure with what feels like an endless amount of space to explore, and in some cases you'll find multiple mineshafts all connected to one another, so you'll literally go on for hours worth of actual exploration time in real life. Now mineshafts are structures primarily found underground in the overworld, which consists of 3x3 interlinked tunnels with incomplete rails running everywhere all the way through them, with oak platforms everywhere and torches. Mineshafts are the only structures with cave spider monster spawners that can be found here, and also there are two different types of mineshafts, regular and badland. Now regular mineshafts contain cobblestone and deep slate pretty much all the way around, and are found most commonly below most biomes. Now badlands are the ones found in the mesas, the deserts, and the badland biomes, which are so cool and very unique to find and also to explore, just like an old western style feature. It's just really cool to explore, something I was not aware of from back in the day, definitely something that didn't exist back when I first played. Now the layout of these structures typically all contain very similar features to one another, such as crosses and staircases, abandoned passageways, corridors, and a starting point, which is usually a larger 10 by 10 area, and is also where you would typically sort of enter in. But obviously, if you're mining into one, it doesn't really matter where you enter in from. But if you find this in an open cave, this is typically how you will see them. Now, what can you actually find in a mineshaft? Well, there's plenty of different items that can be found here, such as rails, torches, name tags, seeds, all different types, golden apples, enchanted books and enchanted apples, diamonds, gold, iron, horse armor of all different types, lapis, and redstone. A perfect early and mid-game structure to explore and obtain plenty of resources to help you get set up for things like the nether later on, or any harder structures in the overworld. Now, just generally, any tips or tricks on exploring mineshafts that I've learned along the way? One of them would be marking out which way you've explored. This is a really simple one and something that I guess most players probably do anyways, but for anyone that doesn't, as I said, it's a maze-like structure and you can easily get lost. So if you're not placing torches around or unique blocks to represent whether this area has been explored or been looted by yourself, or breaking things like chests to avoid re-exploring the same areas over and over again and looting the same resources, and then make sure you mark something down to mark your way that you've explored from. So basically what I would do is typically place a torch on the right side. That's something I would just generally do anywhere I go in mineshafts, so that when I come back past it, it should be on my left. If I carry on going through it, if I go through it again, it should be on my right, which means it's telling me that I've already been here. And that's kind of the way I resemble or mark out which way I'm access or sort of progressing through a mineshaft and just mining in general. But also, if there's like a dead end or something, I would typically put a torch like right down in the middle, something that only I would have put there, not something that could have been spawned there naturally. Also, just putting unique blocks, something that doesn't necessarily exist in that biome, maybe like netherrack or something like that if you have it, if you've already been to the nether, and just mark it so that you know that going down a certain passageway or a certain stairway, it means it's going to lead to a dead end, just so you don't waste any more time. But also, another good factor for doing this is also mark your way back so that you can also understand where you started, as it's easy to get lost, as I said, and you'll end up getting stuck or having to mine upwards in order to actually get out of it, especially if you're not experienced in exploring this cool structure, and also if you're not marking your paths, as even more skilled players can get lost in these places because they feel endless and, like I said, maze-like structures. So unless you're just an expert or you get a bit lucky at times. But also another tip is just make sure you're approaching intersections and generally just proceeding through mineshafts with caution. Here you can easily bump into creepers at the last second turns, and if you're on hardcore, I'd highly recommend doing this to avoid losing your world, because I myself have actually started up a second survival world, which is on hardcore, and I also want to try and complete a bit of Minecraft on hardcore just to see the difference, and I can tell you it is terrifying. Even things like mineshafts, which fortunately for me, as soon as I found an area near the spawn point, I decided to set up my base because it's hardcore and I wanted to be relatively close by, and then literally as soon as I started mining down, I found a mineshaft. So I have plenty of experience in mineshafts in general, but also on hardcore now, and it is definitely something I would definitely recommend doing, just proceeding with caution, making sure you're slowly approaching intersections, maybe just using the different third-person camera angle to try and check on corners. I know it sounds extreme, but if you're playing on hardcore and you don't have diamond or netherite armor at this point, then you definitely want to make sure you are playing this really, really carefully, because I promise you can easily get caught out and get snuck up on, and also just generally like a cave spider in this clip, as you're seeing, you can get poisoned and then bumped into a creeper or whatever may happen, it can happen really, really easily. You wouldn't believe how quickly you can actually die in these places, which then basically leads me on to my final tip, which is basically applied to generally most things anyways. But when exploring, making sure you are prepared and having enough food and the correct armor set is just vital to surviving in a mineshaft, as you'll often find that you'll end up in here longer than you anticipated. So making sure you're just generally prepared is definitely a good tip to just take on board, especially if you're new to the game. Even if you think you're going down there for a couple of minutes, you will be shocked at how quickly and easily you can get distracted, or you can find cool resources, or open up to a new passageway where you see an open ravine, or so on. It just feels endless, as I said. And if you're not prepared, you will die down here if you definitely don't have enough food, or even things like second pickaxes or third pickaxes or a second backup sword. Things like that will help you go a long way. Even if it takes up inventory space, it's just not worth the risk. So I promise you, make sure you're prepared and making sure you are marking your pathways and all sorts, and also just generally making sure you're taking and proceeding with caution, because you're going to have a much harder time if you're playing it risky. Unless you're obviously really experienced and you just don't need to be taking on board any of these tips, then by all means proceed and obviously prove your worth. But for the most part, it's just generally something I would recommend, especially for newer or returning players like myself. Now, just generally for experience, I've found many mineshafts in our world. Each one I've found and explored, I've spent anywhere between 20 to 60 minutes searching, or even more, and looting, but also enjoying. I really enjoy the simple features of the nostalgia elements of this game, regardless of my own armor set or progress in the world, whether I've netherite or not. It's a structure I've always enjoyed and hope to continue to enjoy from the very first days of playing Minecraft when I used to play over 10 years ago. And it's somewhat of a tricky challenge on hardcore, especially with only iron or even diamond armor. You just never know what you're going to encounter around mineshafts, as they offer various different types of pathways which lead into different biomes. And I've also explored a couple beneath lush caves, which are extremely aesthetic and to explore, and I call them underworlds, as it literally feels like a lost civilization under the overworld, especially when you factor in the amount of mobs and greenery and views that you'll find down here. But that's pretty much it, guys, for the most part. Hopefully this video has helped you learn something new about mineshafts and this survival series. To remind you, this is the first time I'm playing Minecraft Survival in over 10 years, so there's plenty of tips and tricks or advice on how best to explore them that I'm sure I myself could benefit from, but also any newer and other returning players who might be watching this video for the first time. So feel free to let us know down below in the comments if you've got any of those to share. If you guys have enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm Visionist Gen. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.